It's supposed to feel.
Yo, yo, yo. Welcome to NS9LIVE. I'm your host, Anthony DiNardo. With me, we got Jim Rosati. We got Tyler. And we got a special guest today. We got Alex Stumpf returning back. What is going on, Alex?
Nothing much. Thanks for having me on again.
Of course. It's always a pleasure.
Trevor Cahill could sign at any moment, but until then, I'm all yours.
I wonder what Trevor Cahill's up to nowadays.
Looking for a job.
What did he do last year?
Not pitch for the Pirates. All that really matters for me.
Not ruin a NS9LIVE opportunity for you, which is the most important thing.
I mean, he really didn't pitch the year before for the Pirates much either, so that's also a
He
plus.
was in the Mets organization.
Really?
Yeah, he pitched
He was.
9 games.
Which level?
AAA.
6.52 ERA. How about that? Move out the way, Vincent Velasquez.
How about that?
No, never again.
You say never again, but it's happening again.
If I was to craft like the worst 9 innings possible of pitching, Trevor Cahill would start in the first inning and be pulled. And then I'd go to like Del Pozo or Dobie or someone, but like Trevor Cahill is starting. And
Well,
Derek
I
Hall is
remember like coming out of the pandemic, 2021, first like baseball game I had been to since 2019 in Cincinnati. Trevor Cahill's debut. I remember that game. I think the Pirates lost like 19-1.
I remember
That was right.
Really,
That sounds about right.
It was really bad.
I remember writing something not that flattering, and then I look back. It's like, this is the 5th game of the season. This isn't good. I should be at this headspace right now.
Yeah,
So first off, he pitched 4 innings, gave up 7 earned runs. And it's believable because it's Trevor Cahill, which of course you saw the numbers here, but also Jim was at the game.
I was there.
So you knew it was a blowout.
Yeah. 14-1 was the final.
Sounds about right.
Is Tyler literally commenting on our own stream that he looks good tonight?
Sometimes you got to feel yourself.
Let's put all the comments from every account that he did it with.
You know what, DiNardo, I was contacted by some very important people, and I was told I look great tonight. They agree with me.
Hey.
They
Don't
agree
hate.
100%.
Anyways, with that said, Alex, you're on the show tonight, coming kind of fresh off the winter meetings. So figured let's talk to you about the Pirates winter meetings and all the happenings there. But I'll be honest, really one thing I'm kind of intrigued and interested on is, I mean, this is like really the first like true, I feel like winter meetings since like 2019 that like people came to and like there was a thing. So I don't know, like, I guess what was your take on the winter meetings this year? How poppin' was it?
It was busy. It was busy. It was weird not seeing some people from like big outlets not, be sent out there, but just in general, like the 2020 winter meetings weren't a thing. It's not a thing if you can't go into the lobby and just be ambushed by, another journalist or a front office member or an agent. Like it's just not really the winter meetings without that. So 2020 wasn't a real thing. 2019, I think, was a little more bustling at the time because we didn't know what was to come. And like, there was the Rendon deal, there was the Cole deal, there was the Strasburg deal, there was like a $200-300 million deal every single day during the entire week or half a week. So, but this was like the real winter meetings again. It's a lot. It's weird being on call like 96 hours, and at any given moment something could happen. And of course, it's whatever you're at the Rob Manfred, availability that the Pirates signed Vince Velasquez, and you don't know that because it's strict no phone while you're in there, and you pull out your phone like, oh, Vince Velasquez signed. Cool. I'm glad I was here to listen to Rob Manfred talk about Oakland Stadium situation for 30 minutes instead.
So if it's Manfred, you can stay. But if it's us, you got to leave and write a column.
I like you guys more if it's any consolation.
Okay. I appreciate that.
It's not saying much.
It's not.
So how did you feel about Ken Rosenthal taking a photo of every available free agent like it's a lost dog? Did you get that far?
Heyman.
Or was it
That was
Heyman?
Heyman.
Okay. That was Heyman.
He had an elite winter meetings, and not for Arson Judge is in the pantheon of great baseball tweets now. I'm putting that way up there with Giancarlo telling Bryce Harper, if only my last name backwards wasn't not Nats. It's like way up. It deserves to be in like the Mount Rushmore of baseball tweets.
Yeah, the Arson Judge thing, and then just the fact that he was like that's the biggest free agency signing probably ever. And he messed it up. He messed it up. He not only did he mess up the name, but he messed up the actual signing itself. So
I have absolutely no information based on how this goes, but just knowing how the Aaron Judge's camp did everything, like the fake video whenever he landed in San Francisco and how that went viral and it was staged and everything. I wonder if they fed Heyman some bad info to like just drive that asking price up again. Again, I'm just riffing here. Speaking as someone who is never going to have to break a $360 million deal, I don't 100% know how that goes, but
never say never.
The arson is just fun.
I mean, you could still
fun.
be alive running for the Pirates in the year 3033.
Or you could be writing for a real team.
If I'm covering the Pirates in 3033, I want to counter of how many times I've been told to get off the beat by then.
Well, we have been dead by then, but maybe we passed it along well enough.
Okay. Will it?
The Baseball Reference page for Aaron Judge already has Arson listed as one of his nicknames.
That was.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was within like half an hour.
Yeah.
Sean Foreman is just like, I got nothing better to do.
So I don't know. Why don't you were there any crazy stories in the lobbies and anything that no one's heard? I don't know. Any rumors you heard?
I mean, I threw a lot of it in Friday Insider, like the actual Pirates rumors, how they like Tommy Canley, and they balked whenever there's a second year involved. So who knows exactly what the depth of the bullpen is going to be next year, outside of Bednar and them putting a lot of eggs in Colin Holderman. A lot of Reynolds stuff, like industry speculation that's all out there. I don't think there's anything really new outside of Pirates say they aren't going to trade him, and then the rest of the league's like, yeah, maybe. We'll find out eventually.
So
which is kind of how it's always been, really.
Yeah, but I mean this. I will say this past off season, I just never thought it was in the realm of possibility. So I never really hustled a lot to try to find out if there were Brian Reynolds trade rumors, and that's because there never were. They just weren't that interested. And I think it is interesting that we talked to Ben Cherington over Zoom, the local reporters, and say, "Do you have any bold statement you want to say about Brian Reynolds' future with the team?" He's like, "No, we appreciate Brian." And it was like a very generic, we're not saying anything, and then Brian Reynolds requests the trade because we are not trading Brian Reynolds. It's like, if you probably would have said that a couple weeks ago, maybe, or a couple years ago, maybe this situation would have been a little different, but I don't know.
So Alex, I think you put in, it was your Friday Insider that you heard some whispers around the lobby that it seems like Reynolds will get his wish. Did you get a sense that's more this year or just in general?
That's more in general. Like, I don't know 100% it's going to happen. And I will say Pirates, have been very, we're not trading him. This is just industry people that know of different, like, either they work for another team or they work, just around the league. Like, they just kind of view it of like, well, I don't know how much could they really go back to Brian after all this, which, Shelton, Charrington, David Bender all said, look, we're not worried if he comes back, if he'd be like pouting and becoming the new welcome to hell guy. Like, they're not worried about that, but industry wise, like, it could be a thing. Like, it is what it is pretty much with a lot of this type of stuff. I don't know what it's going to be. I obviously saw the Rosenthal, facetious Soto-like package. Like, that will never happen. Let's be real here. Brian Reynolds is a really terrific baseball player. He is not Juan Soto. And B, everything I think the Pirates have said is kind of what you have to say right now, because if they leave the door open of, we're open to trading him after he's made a request, that's only going to bring the value down. So A, you don't want to look like you're being bullied by the player and giving in to them. And B, you've got to do everything you can to keep that value up in case you do have to trade him. Because the worst thing that could happen is you lose Brian Reynolds and you don't get a big haul for him.
Yeah, I think at this point, like you mentioned, if an extension isn't going to happen, then a trade is, right? Like the Pirates aren't going to just let Brian Reynolds walk, right, and get nothing in return. So, it's just then a matter of time. So, yeah, I'm curious to kind of just see how it plays out. Brian Reynolds doesn't really strike me as a guy who's not going to, like perform on the field if he doesn't get what he wants type of deal. Because, if let's say he goes into like a de facto operation shutdown mode or something like that, where he's like, well, if you're not going to trade me, then I'm just not going to play. Then that just makes him less appealing to other teams. Yeah. So I don't really see any of this having any effect in in Reynolds on field aspect, but it is going to be curious to kind of just follow it to see what happens. I don't think he gets traded before opening day. Like I think he's on this team's opening day roster. I don't think there's going to be any team that meets the Pirates' demands for him right now, but I could see him getting moved like at this deadline. Like, I think that's a pretty real possibility.
It's all a possibility. Like, it could happen this offseason. We got how many holidays between now and whenever spring trading starts? I mean, Christmas, Valentine's Day, Martin Luther King Day. Like, there's a lot of like holidays that they could make these big trades on, like they have in the past.
Yeah.
Brian Reynolds traded
exclusively.
Well, Brian Reynolds traded Christmas morning. Alex is unwrapping presents. He gets a notification. He's gotta go write up an article.
Hey, it could be a North Shore 9 podcast day. That's the most important.
I'm not doing a podcast on Christmas Day.
We did it on Thanksgiving Day, right? And then it was Thanksgiving Day. I think you and I pulled up, Tyler.
So Jim that was Josh Bell, and that was Christmas Eve.
So it was okay, then Christmas Eve.
Ish.
Yeah.
That trade broke about 5 minutes before I left my family for church.
Yeah, I think it was Christmas
That was a
Eve.
fun one.
Joe Hanrahan was back on like Christmas Day.
Sounds about right.
Yeah,
they give them the week off between Christmas and New Year's now, which is great for me. Because I don't have to worry about this. Nothing is happening on Federal right now. Awesome.
Could you guys, though, really, I mean, just think. Imagine Brian Reynolds being traded on Christmas Day, though. Christmas morning of all.
Why would you say that? Why would you say that?
These three, or I should say two, these two do know I do like to watch the world burn. And
This isn't the
as
world
much
burn.
as for the Pirates sense, well, yeah, I mean, that's part of it, though, because then I get to, shout you out in the morning. Merry Christmas, Alex.
Merry Christmas, Alex, is a just tweet under your tree.
Yeah, hopefully nothing happens Christmas Day. I'm not in the proper headspace to do that.
I do just want to ask you, though, I know you kind of said it to a degree here, but I mean, if you were going to put odds that he's traded before opening day, like what would your odds be?
Boy, I'm really just weighing these numbers here. Okay, so don't take this as like a hard, but I let's say a Reynolds batting average-ish.
Okay,
Somewhere in there, like 30%. I mean, I'm just going based off of what the team has said, which has been we are 100% not trading him, and then just people around the industry saying, well, they have to trade him. Like it's out of their control at this point. So.
right. And I'm kind of at the point too. It's like where there's smoke, there's fire, and you're hearing. I mean, especially the winter meetings, and of course, you always hear all kinds of rumors and stuff pop up, anyways. But it's just like I feel like this year, opposed to any, it seems like this is real. This is legit. Like teams are really, really trying to go after him. So that's what makes me curious. And obviously, I understand those winter meetings and the timing of it. Right? He just requested a trade, so like I get it, but I don't know, man. It just seems like if he's not going to sign this extension, then what is the point of keeping him? Like, as Jim was saying, you're not just going to ride him out. And I just feel like with that, if there's no extension, then you probably are just more intrigued of taking the best offer out there, albeit a good offer.
There's a lot of chips put on 2024. And that's the reason why you don't trade Brian Reynolds without, something in mind for that. Again, just speaking in the ether, if Brian Reynolds is traded, I would imagine there is a lot of major league-ish type talent coming back in return, like guys who are going to be able to contribute sooner rather than later, which, as we saw, with the Garrett Cole trade, that can sometimes be played with fire. Then again, McCutchen was a trade like that, and that yielded Brian Reynolds. That ended up being pretty damn good. So it's a mixed bag with that. There's a lot of stress put on that group. That was in Altoona last year. That finished in Indianapolis. That's going to come up this year. They're really hoping that the first full year they have in the majors, they can make a run. The same way that like Atlanta did. This most recent Braves team, it all came together about then. How the Royals came together, last decade. Pretty fast whenever they all came up together. That's what they're hoping to replicate here. So that's why they feel like, well, Brian Reynolds is under team control through 2025. We'll be competitive in that window. That's why they're not really in the mood to trade him, because if you do trade him, 2024 becomes a lot more difficult without him. And at some point, you're just kicking the can down further and further and further, and you already have one of the worst 3-year stretches in franchise history on your ledger. How much goodwill have you built up with Bob Nutting if you are Ben Cherington to be like, we could keep kicking this can down another year or so? That's why they have so far this year added instead of, traded away at the major league level. They're trying to take a step forward with the major league team this year.
So real quick, just to go back to Reynolds, I know you kind of gathered that the extension talks are almost dead at this point. Not your words, just mine. Do you see that heating back up at all?
It's the general feel I got at the time was it was a borderline Mike Tomlin, never say never, but never. I mean, like, at least at this point, it can change. It can potentially change. The door isn't 100% shut. I don't see it happening again anytime soon. Not whenever there's a trade request out there. I mean, how do you go back from, like, why one out? Well, what if we offer you a few more million? Like, you can't really do that at this point. Like, maybe if some time passes, if this team, does better, if they say, okay, we're really going to make a big time offer for you, not just, more money than Hayes, like something that's more in line with what a center fielder of your talent would get close to the open market with the 2 arbitration years factored in, then maybe something changes. But right now, I'm not at all optimistic that comes back together.
Do you have a guesstimate on what that offer was? Just Not really based on anything you heard or.
I got that off the record.
Okay, fair enough.
Sorry. And I don't even know. I don't
Okay.
even have like a round number of what it was.
Yep, fair enough.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
More than Hayes.
More than
But right. Well, let me ask this too, because I think this is something that a lot of fans and people are like kind of interested to know. It was this, and again, if you don't know, that's fine. But like, do you see this more of a ploy, from like the agent, like his camp to try to get more money, like try to meet his demands, or is it just simply like, hey, listen, like we're done here. There's no going back.
There are very few times in a player's career whenever they have leverage. And right now, Reynolds has leverage just knowing what he's coming off of a good season, 2 really good seasons. If you put them together, one of the best performing center fielders in the game. He sees 3 years coming up. There's the concerns of what happens if you don't compete in 2024. Like at this point, then like Jim was saying, do you ride him out in 2025 and only get a draft pick in return, or do you trade him? Like, is this realistic of, can I be on this team when it is competing? And if the answer is no, there's 2 ways to go around it. It's either extend me and, keep me here for years and years and years, or trade me to a contender right now, and I'll either get paid or I'll be in a new situation, a more competitive team where I could go to the playoffs. This guy has been he's been on 4 last place teams in his major league career. Like,
Yeah,
and 2 of them yielded the number 1 draft pick the following year. Like, it is, I don't blame him for being like, no, I don't blame him if he wants to win. He deserves it. He's played like a winner in his major league career. And what he's been around has been one of the most aggressive teardowns of any major league team during that time.
Yeah, I'm just kind of go back to, you mentioned, 2-year stretch. I just wanted to kind of look at the numbers here real quick. Among all outfielders, not just center fielders, all outfielders, 7th highest WAR over the last 2 seasons. Brian Reynolds, higher than Bryce Harper, higher than Brandon Nimmo, who just got that $162 million deal. So, yeah, I mean, it's like you mentioned, he's got leverage. This is the time to kind of capitalize on it right now. And yeah, with the way that just the contract is struck, like the way that just it is right now in service time and when he hits free agency, you got to either extend him or he doesn't necessarily fit into your window for more than a year. Because they're not just riding out 2025. I don't think, like, when was the last time the Pirates have ever done that? I can't really.
Bonds.
Yeah.
Bonds was the last time.
I mean, it's been a while. Yeah.
And he saw what good that did, so we'll never do that again.
That's why why we are where we're at.
Do we want to continue talking about the Reynolds situation? I mean, I feel like I could talk about forever. We've kind of have been, but is there really anything new? Anything we want to talk about? Bring it up with Alex.
I mean, I guess the one thing I do want to say, and like what is fair for Brian Reynolds? You look at him and he's kind of like a little bit older than your typical guy who's kind of going to hit free agency, right? He's going to be a free agent at age, like after his age 30 season, right? His first free agency year is going to be his age 31 season. So I think there may just be some sort of a disconnect there on years. I don't know. Like, I feel like he's worth what, if you look at Brandon Nimmo's contract, like Brian Reynolds is worth that after his arbitration years. I don't think anybody's really going to argue that. But then it's like a matter of like, how many years do you want? Like if the Pirates want to extend him for 3, 4, 5 years after that, then like, is that something they're willing to do? But because there are probably other teams out there who if they had Brian Reynolds right now, and I think this is kind of the play that he's going with is, you send him to a contender and a contender is willing to give him a 8-year extension, right? Where the Pirates may only be able to maybe only want 3 or 4 of those free agency years. So I think the disconnect's there where like it's broken, and unless the Pirates basically go back and say, hey, you know what, you got your arbitration years, then we'll give you 5 more, free agency years at $100 million, then maybe we're talking. I don't know, but I also don't really see the Pirates doing that.
It'd be a paradigm shift.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how much to say. We're talking about how this past year they set a record for most money given to a player. That was a 21-year-old record, and it required the player to take 2 more extra years than the original deal. I mean, it was a different set of circumstances. Obviously, Hayes was a pre-arb contract, but it still is what it is.
Yeah.
So I guess one more just before we wrap up the Reynolds. That was a good one. Reynolds wrap. Anyhow. Do you see, I guess this is all speculation from you right now, do you see them shifting off of their what seems like very extreme demands of Brian Reynolds right now?
No. If they do trade him, it's going to be for a haul. It's as simple as that. And the only reason why I put that, well, this is still in the ether, because I don't know how much I can put into like what I heard about it, but like the Marlins, for example, are willing to trade a lot for him. And that might have to come with like conditions of we get a chance to extend him or something. That's speculation on my part, but like there's a lot of look. There's teams that are willing to give up a lot for Brian Reynolds because it's a weak center field market, and he is a very good player who is affordable, in terms of luxury tax and payroll and all that as well. There's just enough hanging around that, despite the Pirates' insistence that this is not happening, that this will not happen, which that statement only came after a couple months of them going, well, we're just going to say we really appreciate Brian Reynolds. He's a very good ball player. We're looking forward to him, but we can't say no at this point. It's only now, whenever this is in the ether, that it's actually no. So I don't know. They're going to have to continue to listen. At some point, someone's going to keep talking, right? And it might not be this offseason. It might not be this trade deadline. It might not be next off. It's just at some point, someone's going to say something, right? Because like Jim said, I don't see this ending with him walking. Could be years.
Yeah, and you mentioned the Marlins. Like, I mean, they've been linked to Brian Reynolds for a while now. Like, he's clearly somebody they've been targeting for quite some time. So, yeah, I mean, maybe it comes, and I don't think the Marlins are in any. I mean, I don't think the Marlins are looking to compete much in 2023. So I don't really know what they're doing. Maybe they're trying. I don't know. That NL East is pretty tough.
They've got potential really good lineup or rotation.
Yeah, but that NL, I mean, that they're in a very tough
stacked division, but at some point you got to try to break through.
You're right.
Come on, Jim.
Who knows?
Don't stomp all over my Marlins.
Maybe they're trying, but to me, on the outside, it's like I feel like if he goes to the Marlins, then he's just kind of in a similar situation.
Probably, he's probably in the exact same situation. Not the exact same, but like he could be on a good team in a just absolute monster division that had.
Yeah, I mean the Marlins lost 93 games last year. Like maybe like when it comes to rebuilding, the Marlins are like 1 year ahead of the Pirates. But so yeah, maybe this year's their year where the Marlins go 500 and they're flirting with a wild card.
I have a hard time writing off a team that has a Cy Young Award winner, heading their rotation, that has some decent corner players. Up the middle. Like it is what it is. They're going to need some bounce backs. They're going to need Trevor Rogers to pitch like he did in 21. It'd be a real boost if Sixto Sanchez was alive at any point for them. A lot of stuff has to go their way.
Yeah.
Maybe
their staff is the pitching staff is good. Yeah. Like it's good.
Yeah. And if the problem is offense, if you could add Brian Reynolds into the mix, I mean, they got Yuri Perez, who is a dog as a prospect. So.
Yeah, I would like him.
I don't think that's happening.
Well, then I don't think the trade's
Yeah,
happening.
I think Yuri's like he's the one guy where I think they've just said like you can have anybody but him, you know.
How much control does Pablo Lopez have? Pablo Sanchez, he got it all.
3 years?
And Pete Wheeler.
I think Pablo Lopez.
Now, Jim and I have gone back and forth. This is a year-long thing between Jim and I. Pablo Lopez is not just a guy, Jim. He's good.
He's literally a guy. He's a guy.
He's not.
He's a dude.
He's Mitch Keller. Like,
no, he is not.
I think Mitch
Keller's not a
He's
guy.
a slightly more experienced Mitch Keller. Like
Mitch Keller's a man.
Pablo
He's in
Lopez.
between dude and guy.
Pablo Lopez has never put up a 3-WAR season. He's a dude. Like he's a guy. He's a third starter.
He's a dude.
He's a free agent.
He's a third.
He's a free agent in 2025, by the way.
Yeah. So he's got 2 more years.
Okay, so no.
Donardo, he said he was a dude.
He is a dude. I like
He's
Pablo
a guy.
Lopez.
A guy.
But again, that would have
I'm
to be
not
just
saying
a
he's
part
bad,
of
but he's-
that package.
Yeah, he's a guy.
Change
No,
up is
there's a
nasty.
big difference between dude and guy.
All right, I take back dude. I'm just gonna go with guy.
He's a dude. And he had 3 WAR going by Baseball Reference, which is better for pitching.
Correct.
Just saying.
Correct.
I'm looking at his Fangraphs page. So that's why I said that.
Nobody cares about Fangraphs pitching stats.
All right. And 2020 was a shortened season. And then in 2021, he's injured. So
Can we not make this a Pablo Lopez podcast? Like, who cares?
yes.
He's a guy.
Bringing
Like he's
my
literally
battle
a
onto
guy.
the show.
It's
No,
about
he's a
that
guy.
Anyways.
non-problematic life of Pablo discussion.
But anyway, you know who is definitely not a guy or a dude?
Vince Velasquez.
So Vince Velasquez was signed by the Pirates. So that was the key piece of this rotation, apparently, that the Pirates needed to go get. Anyways, I could troll a little bit. I don't think we need to talk much about Vince Velasquez, unless you guys want to, or Alex, if you want to as well. But anyways,
the Pirates were going to only sign a couple starters if they want to. So
That quote was taken out of the podcast.
whatever. But I will just
there
say,
are
so I
rallying
mean, just
cries. Trust me, guys. There
so
are
I can
rallying
say
cries
it.
you could say of what the front office or other people said. That one was straw grasping. That came like
well,
that
Bobo,
came
dang
an
it.
hour after the manager said Andy Rodriguez, the only catcher on the 40-man, wasn't making the major league roster. It's like, okay, which one should you actually be upset about? Them
All
saying
of them.
we could potentially add a couple starting pitchers if we wanted to, or this guy is not making the major league team opening day no matter what. No matter Henry too. Neither one of them. We will go back to Jason DeLay and Tyler Heineman if we have to.
Oh, I got upset about that one too. Yeah, I didn't let that one go.
Alex, who took that quote
Right.
out of context? Was it Persac? Probably. We'll kick him on the way out.
Yeah, well, Persac's gone, man. He's
Yeah, let's just blame him.
all right. I blame Persac for a lot of stuff too.
It was probably Mackey too. I don't know. It was all of them except for Alex.
No, I think I started it because like Mackie tweeted it, and then I think I just retweeted it and was like, "If we feel like it," you know. I just retweeted the "if we feel like it" part. So I like to say that I started it.
I think the good question here, and Bobo Dang It does ask, do you guys think Pirates done with starting pitching after the Velasquez signing? And again, this goes what we're saying. I mean, the talk was, they're potentially looking into Kyle Gibson. That was a name. Bringing back Q, right? Potentially both. I don't know the way that was worded, if it's one or the other or potentially both. They've talked about adding multiples, potentially. They talked about going long-term, potentially. And so far, all we have is Vince Velasquez. So what do you think? Is this it?
If they sign someone, it's probably going to be another one-year deal. I again, from just knowing how they completely immediately balked after Canley, whenever he talks onto multi-year, and just in general, Pirates have said they are open for multi-year deals, but in terms of how they've actually negotiated, it's been very strong preference for 1 year for a lot of guys. So maybe they do get another guy on another type of 1-year deal. Maybe he's more of a swingman in terms of anything, because I think you've got to go into next year's rotation. And yeah, you could have injuries and everything, so you can't 100% put it all in there. But you need to have Keller in there. You need to have Contreras. You need to have Brubaker, and I think you need to have Oviedo. And if Vince Velasquez has this handshake agreement of you are going to be in the opening day rotation, that's 5 right there.
You make me want to throw up.
Well, let me ask the question that all three of us are wondering right now. Oviedo over Ortiz. Is that where you're at?
At the moment, I think Ortiz is going to get some reps in AAA first. He was up because they just needed a starting pitcher at the end of the year. He was older. They knew he was going to be added to the roster anyway. Just call him up. I think he's been up for a month. He's got, I guess, a shot of anything, but he's also going to be a top 100 prospect who, let's be honest, the Pirates have yet to. When was the last time a top 100 prospect was called up before, any Super 2 date or at least team control date has passed?
Is this also a Bonds answer?
Yeah, it was Contreras out of necessity, and then they sent him down to correct that. So
yeah. And then he was sent down again because he was going to make a little more money.
Alex, this is a player-first type of team. Things are changing. Don't tell me they're full of shit.
Player-centric environment.
There are a lot of things that they are player-centric, and then it's like, that could also include money and service time, guys.
I feel like that's a big
I hear
part
that.
of it.
I hear that. Yeah, so I guess like you were saying, don't expect much from starting pitching going forward. This might not be it, but more or less if it is, it's probably going to be a smallerish deal like this one.
Yeah. I think Quintana was and I guess maybe Gibson if you want to go there. I don't know how much they were willing to offer him. The offer wasn't, at least with Gibson, the offer wasn't laughed out. And he signed for 10, so I have to imagine it was at least somewhere in the ballpark there. I think Quintana was the white whale of maybe the guy they'd be willing to go for 2 years, but at a much lower AAV than what he got. If they get someone, but like I said, they traded for Oviedo for a reason. Brubaker is here. Rich Keller and Roansy Contreras, I think, could be 2 good pitchers this upcoming year. I asked about Lyles. No. Nothing to report there.
No. Sorry, Bucko Mike.
It's a bummer.
Sorry, Bucko Mike. I that was me just like, this makes too much sense. This is the type of starter they're going for. Would anyone be upset with a Jordan Lyles reunion as Tyler weeps in the bottom corner?
I don't want anybody from any of the previous teams. Except maybe I would have taken Quintana.
So if Garrett Cole was available, you'd say no.
Okay, any of the previous crap.
I would have took Tyler Anderson.
Jameson Tyon was out there.
Yeah, you're right. Never mind. I take all that back. I would have taken all those guys.
Way to go, dummy.
Hey, so are we gonna get a catcher?
Let's see how Roberto Perez does in winter ball.
So Tucker Barnhart, that name was floated out there, but that was really the only name that I saw. And Tucker Barnhart's terrible. He's really bad, awful. Are these?
How do you really feel?
So are they just? I know they're going to have to get a catcher eventually, but I guess the question is like, how bad of a catcher should we expect them to sign here?
The first, second, and third choice. I got the feeling. First, second, third, fourth choice has always been Roberto Perez. Like if he's healthy, it's like let's just go back to him because he is beloved by that pitching staff. I cannot stress that enough. They would go to, or like Chase DeYoung, talking to him before one of the season ticket holder events that they had at PNC Park is like biggest moment of this year is whatever we lost him. And it's like we just like Jason and Tyler did a great job. And, they did what they could, but you weren't going to replace a 2-time Gold Glover who just knows these pitchers, that knows what to do there. So there's just no way around it. They love him there. He could be a great veteran leader for Andy and Henry whenever they do come up at some point, teach them, mentor them. There's a lot of things to like about that. It is just I think everyone in baseball kind of expects or is skeptical of his health. So they just want to make sure that he could go at least part of the season before that happens.
Yeah.
So I really wanted to ask you, if Jose Godoy had more than a 10% chance to be on an opening day roster, but instead I'll ask you how important you've gathered that having a veteran catcher is for Endy and Henry, especially with Endy not really catching much in his minor league career. It seems like that's probably going to be a very important spot to have a true veteran game caller, maybe not so great offensively, but just having a dude that can command a room.
Oh, it definitely helps. I mean, you can't stress the importance of veteran leadership. That's I think that's something that whenever we move to more an analytical game for, that kind of got lost. So it's no, that's, if you have real leaders here that can teach these kids how to do stuff like that, that's incredibly valuable. It won't show up on a score sheet, but it is what it is. And yeah, like you said with Endy in particular, he's bounced around because he's been at the same levels of some other, minor league catchers who are considered prospects, whether it's Henry Davis, whether it's Abraham Gutierrez, there's a reason why he played second and right and first base and basically every position this past year. That said, I've got reports that he could be a big league catcher. He does a lot of things right. Henry Davis does a lot of things right, but there's also room for growth, both of them right there. And that having someone there, a lot of teams would kill to have a situation like the Pirates have, where they've got two legitimate dudes, top 100 prospects, not just guys, Jim, dudes who are top 100 prospects that are going to be, at the most important position for any position player. That's a big boost.
Do you think there's a chance we have 3 major league catchers on this roster at some point this year?
I think
with Endy, Henry, and then a veteran.
Yeah, I think that's very possible. Second half of the season, whenever they're all up, if Roberto's still healthy, I think it's maybe even possible.
Oh, so he just reported Roberto's coming back to the Pirates.
First, second, third, fourth, fifth choice. It's one of those. It's. I would be more surprised if they went to a Tucker Barnhart or someone else.
So along the same lines here, we're talking about Endy, and he's played multiple positions in the minors. Is that are the Pirates? Is your impression that's going to be his role once he hits the majors too? He's going to be this super utility guy who can catch?
I think they're not going to let anything stop what he can do. If he does prove he could just be a catcher, I think they'll let him get a lot of reps there, because they're doing the same thing with Henry right now, where it's look, this is your opportunity. Who you're competing with here also. You also know that we don't really have a first baseman set for 2024. You also know that there's a designated hitter spot. You also know that, we also put you out in right field a little bit in 2022 in Altoona. So there's ways to go about it. I don't think there is a set one of these two is going to be the catcher, the other one's going to be doing this, this, and this. I think we'll see both of them do this, this, and this in 2023. And I think that's fine, because you got to give these guys an opportunity to see who is the better catcher for this organization moving forward. I think they're both plus hitters, and they'll be good hitters for years to come. But that is so important, especially before we get to, the automatic strike zone. You can get, Oscar or Radley Haydad to, call pitches on the pitch comm and call a game that way. You can do a lot of other things, but you still need to be a guy there. You still need to have those relationships. You have to have that trust of your pitching staff. And that's something that Roberto Perez could teach him if he was to return.
I mean, you already reported he's coming back
this time.
Yeah, he's first, second, third, and fourth choice. So,
Yeah.
Do you sense? I'll just ask this too. Do you sense there's also some type of market for Roberto Perez that the Pirates will have to really fight for, or like is this basically a done deal as long as he is healthy? And
No, I don't know how much of a market there is in general. And again, the Pirates haven't made an offer, at least to my knowledge. Like they wanted to see him play and what about what he just started doing right now. So there's still some hurdles to go over through there. But if you're in the market for a catcher, I don't know why you wouldn't go to Omar Narvaez first. If I was looking for a catcher, I don't know why I wouldn't go to. There's someone else on the market besides Barnhart as well. Like there are other options.
Just trade for Reese McGuire. Call it
trade for Reese McGuire.
You reported it. Just did.
could have done it for hardly anything.
Gonna have to get him a driver though.
Just keep him out of parking lots.
Can't let him go unsupervised.
Oh,
Good
you're a
defensive
jerk.
catcher, though. Very good defensive catcher.
I'll just add my 2 cents. I know I've said it here before too. Like I don't mind the Perez signing. Like there's definitely room for opportunity in a lot of positions, right? But just knowing the dynamic where the Pirates are at, because they do have 2 top prospects in the system, other catchers that should be there next year. Endy probably first, right? I think we all could agree on. But it's for those same reasons. I just feel like hearing the connections he's had with the pitching staff, just how much the team likes him, what he can offer, right? You're talking about veteran leadership and stuff, like what he can offer to the young guys. I feel like it just makes total sense also. Like you're not going to get a whole lot of production out of it, but I'm cool with that for right now. You also understand like the dynamic of this team. You have to play both sides of the fence, although they're not doing too well the other side, right? You have to try to compete and get better, but at the same time develop these prospects and get them, acclimated to MLB and such. And I think like Perez does a really good job of that aspect. So I'm perfectly okay with Roberto Perez being a Pirate next year. I just hope he does make it till, June and July, like we're hoping for. Because it would really suck when he's out in like August or April 15th.
How much have you tweeted out of what I said?
Just two things. including my shooting my shot from mid-court, 30% Brian Reynolds. Thanks for that.
I was wondering whose phone was buzzing.
I haven't even seen any of this. We've lost Alex now. He's no longer saying anything newsworthy on the show.
I'm putting Alex quotes on Twitter.
Okay. I am going to say the most sterile, unquotable. The Pittsburgh Pirates were founded in 1882.
Make sure that quote is etched in stone.
Alex, you will not win a fanboy like that.
Yeah, where the hell are my fanboys? Like, are these like physical matter objects?
They're
you
NFTs.
Didn't get them?
They're NFTs.
I don't want them.
I need your MetaMask.
You what?
Yeah, exactly. We'll move on. So anyways, Jim, I think you had something you want to ask him?
No, I didn't.
Okay. I've lost my track of thought.
Potentially interesting to Jim.
I will say this: the 0-9 Louisville Cardinals are winning right now at halftime.
You said bet against them forever.
I did.
Thanks.
All right, we can go on.
Donardo hasn't spoken in like a half hour, so I'll let him talk.
I've been speaking. I literally just asked him the last question. I got us sidetracked because Jim's out here quoting fake.
Okay. All right.
I didn't know. They're all real quotes.
I guess I'll just give
They're
you
on video. We got them on video. Well, the etched in stone part is false. That's fake.
Yeah.
That's only like the biggest part of that entire thing.
You can keep this first, second, third, and fourth. You're deleting the me pulling a number out of my ass.
All right. Well, I guess I'll just take this to something Alex has actually written about Quinn Priester and all 17 of his pitches now. You did bring up a big part about the sinker he's added that seemed to really elevate him this year. do you sense you're a math guy, like stats? That's where your bread and butter's made. Do you sense that the shift, the outlaw of it, is really going to affect him going forward here? And just not just him, but just all of them in general.
With Priester in particular, going there first, it's a possibility. I think the sinker is a better pitch than the four-seamer for what he has. And I think just in general, I mean, that's a pitch to contact. And whenever you look at who the Pirates have in their infield of O'Neal Cruz and Rodolfo Castro, two guys with range, but could also make mistakes. And there could be a lot of hits that go around there through up the middle. So there's
tweet that, Jim.
It's going to be interesting how they go about that. I think the breaking stuff he has 2+ breaking pitches, and that's really going to help him. And maybe he has to lean on those a little more whenever he gets up to the major leagues until he gets a better feel for like how to use his fastball up here. I mean, that's a learning experience that every pitcher has to go through at some point. So learning how to use his stuff. He's got 5 pitches, and like all 5 of the pitches have some variance of like this could play in the major leagues to know this is a plus pitch. Go through there, figure that out. I think the pitcher who is maybe going to be the most in trouble by the rule shift will be Brubaker, because he doesn't go to the four-seamer really that much anymore. He's relying on.
Are you also distracted by John Quill just like blaring her music right now, or is that me?
You guys hear that? Hold on, I gotta go yell at her.
I was gonna say, what's going on here?
Yeah, shit. I was like, what's going on?
All right, he has 5 pitches. You're interested in the second one.
I was in a groove, and then I started hearing.
Yeah, I was trying to nod along with you. Like
I was hearing it too.
I had to do it.
Yeah, thank you. Now this won't be copyright struck.
That's
exactly.
True. Yeah,
I mean, that was
like
that was something.
I am back.
Back and louder than ever.
No, but with Brubaker, guy who does rely on contact a little bit more, just who the Pirates have up the middle. He didn't have any really help. There was a long portion of this past year where he just, all these bleeders, his defense just didn't get through. Maybe that's bad luck. Maybe there's something to it that he could control more. Don't know for sure, but it just kind of strikes as like, there's a little smoke here of like, this could be problematic.
It's interesting you say that, because that was my biggest worry for like Mitch Keller. And I say worry loosely. I mean, I think he's figured himself out. I think you can rely on him in being a decent pitcher, but I also feel like he got pretty lucky last year and a lot of double play balls and such. And, with the shift, I feel like Mitch Keller could see a bigger impact on that. Maybe I'm wrong.
I think Mitch also added the sweeper and was getting a lot of swings and misses with his breaking stuff again. There was a lot to go there. Like I'm guilty of like, hey, whenever he started throwing a sinker, he started doing this. And yeah, some of that probably was punching above, his weight class for a little bit, but there were also a lot of good traits, a lot of good things that he was doing with his pitches that were going on during that second half of the year. That those last 2 months, I think he was just solid, man. I think he's broke it out. Like it's finally here. I feel I mean, just from like personal feel, I don't have any reservations of like what Mitch Keller could do in 2023. I think he's more or less arrived. And no, he isn't this big ace that everyone thought he was going to be, but he is a good major league pitcher.
He's Pablo Lopez.
He's a dude.
He's a dude.
Yeah.
I think if we run back the tape, I said Mitch Keller was a dude.
He did. He did.
All right.
But just to take it right back to Priester, you mentioned Brubaker and the other stuff he has. You also brought up the cutter / slider. I think you called it more of a slider that he added. How much, I guess, does that really add to it with these sinker ballers this year that have previously been more ground ball type pitchers? Obviously, the tunneling's a lot different with a Priester. That I think I might feel a little more confident with the sinker on him rather than, say, a Brubaker.
Yeah. I mean, the slider cutter, I mean, it does lend itself more to tunneling and than like a curveball would. So playing off of that definitely could. Like I said, I've been told that's the best pitch he's got now with it. So I think that only helps the sinker whenever you have a plus pitch that could play off of it. I think he's going to have to be a kind of work backwards type of pitcher where it's like you have to respect the breaking stuff and then the fastball can get to you rather than, you work off the fastball. But that's fine. It's 23. I mean, 2023 pitchers are going to know how to do that now. It just might take a little bit of major league adjustment, but I mean, that's every rookie basically in baseball history besides like Juan Soto and those guys.
It is weird, like just thinking back to like Charlie Morton and how many pitches he added to try to offset that sinker just to get a lefty out. And then he went to curveballs.
And then he went to Houston and started throwing four-seamers and became a Cy Young candidate. Isn't it crazy? Maybe that was the issue.
Yeah, I mean, back to Priester, I think, you mentioned pitching backwards and, that kind of could be his play because the curveball is really good. Like, it's a really good curveball. He can throw it for strikes. He can get swings and misses if he needs to. So, yeah, I mean, I could totally see that. Like, I haven't really seen much of the sinker yet. But the one thing I noticed about his four-seamer when he was throwing it a lot, with the curveball slider is, he wasn't really getting swings and misses with the four-seamer. Like, there was contact. And so, kind of figuring out a way, okay, what's the best way to use this pitch? What's the best way to, complement it with other pitches? What's a good way to get more swings and misses? Because, that's kind of just what you got to do nowadays.
Yeah. And he brought up that, sometimes with his four-seamer, he's going for a foul ball to get back in the count. He's going for a pop-up to try to get a quick at-bat right there. Like, he can miss some bats, but it's not a big whiff pitch. I think people are going to be kind of disappointed whenever they go on the baseball savant page. You're like, oh, it's a 7.3% whiff rate. What the hell? I thought this guy was supposed to be, a top 100 prospect. He's got to work backwards off of the break and stuff, which, again, I'm a broken record. 2+ pitches.
Well, Jim did say it was like the sexiest curveball he's ever seen in his life.
That's pretty good. Like, it's pretty good. It was
Alex
on.
seems to disagree.
The time I saw him, it was on, like really on.
In person or?
In person, yeah.
I've only seen him in person once.
Yeah.
I mean, outside of spring training, which is just an inning or two when you're not as sharp.
Like, I don't know if I saw anybody make contact with it. Like, it was that good that night.
Filthy guys.
He's a dude.
He is. He's a dude.
Yep. So I want to ask you, bring up the guy. So the Pirates went into the Rule 5 draft. Of course, as always, a lot of buzz on the Rule 5. How do they not protect this guy? How do they not do this? Now, Blake Sable was selected by the Reds and traded to the Giants. So there was one guy, only one guy. I know people were worried about a lot of others, but the Pirates did also make a selection. They added, oh God, I forgot his name already.
Jose Hernandez.
Jose Hernandez from the Dodgers. So maybe can you give us a little insight on this guy and what he's going to do for the Pirates?
Lefty who can throw upper 90s, sits about 96, 97. So, I mean, that alone is, okay, intriguing for a major league bullpen. As is slider, I think he's going to be the make or break pitch here because not a lot of run, not a ton of depth, but it's still an average-ish pitch. Changeup isn't going to play in the major league, so he has to be able to throw it to both lefties and right-handers, and it's a lot harder to right-handers whenever that's cutting in to make that an effective pitch. If he can do it, though, I mean, it's a hard-throwing lefty it's intriguing stuff. I think they're going to probably try to protect him like they did with, Oviedo, like hide him for big leverage roles. That's why they also got Harley and Garcia, if they ever want to announce that signing as official. Like, I'm sure that Garcia is going to take the bulk of like the important lefty leverage situations, and Hernandez will be the second lefty and the 8th and 9th inning mop-up guy type of deal. But I see the vision here. I see the vision of how this guy could be a quality major league pitcher. Like, how often do you get a hold of a lefty who goes 97, 98?
I'm right here.
And
Wow.
you hit dingers
I hit
off
dingers.
Cubs pitchers.
Oh yeah, Kyle Hendricks.
Yep.
And River.
You go do
Were you shocked at all in this election?
Not really. I mean, I purposely didn't get that into the Rule 5 draft this year. I spared myself that because up until like a couple days beforehand, there just wasn't anything. There weren't any spots open, so it's like, okay, they can't take someone unless they outright someone, put someone on waivers. That obviously happened. And then at that point, it's like, no, I'm not going to bust my ass, and I'd probably end up just copying a lot of what JJ Cooper and did anyway. So I'm good here. So like just reading the reports, like it's more just like, okay, this guy, I see how he can be a big league player. I'm not going to second guess it. Like, oh, how could they have not taken so and so? The Pirates
I think you
lucked out in the Rule 5 draft that they kept Nunez, they kept Gorski, they kept Tanaj Thomas, they kept everyone besides Blake Sable.
They got away with not drafting the guy that got suspended.
Well, we'll get to that. I do want to talk about that, but I think. I mean, you brought up JJ Cooper, Baseball America. He did a write-up. He did a preview for the Rule 5 draft where I think he took like 50 possible Rule 5 draft candidates. And Jose Hernandez was not one of them. Like,
right.
He was like the only guy who wasn't on that list. So I found that a little interesting. Like, he literally typed up 50 guys.
And I think they even tweeted that out, like when it happened.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, this is such a Pirate thing right now.
So, I mean, he was on the Pirates' radar, but, wasn't on, the industry's radar, apparently. But looking at his numbers, he strikes you as a guy who, if there's something there, good stuff, lefty reliever. That's someone who I think you can probably hide, on a bad team, especially if you have that number one lefty like they have now. I'm intrigued by it. I'm never going to really get too excited about a Rule 5 pick. Like their Rule 5 picks there's a reason why they're not on the 40-man roster, right? But you never know. There could be he could be of some value.
He's got stuff. It's going to be, how does he execute? Where does he attack in the zone? How does he handle this jump up to the major leagues, where there are times in the minors that a lefty throwing 98 is just going to win the battle no matter what.
Yep.
Where you can't always get that in the majors.
Yeah.
Okay, before Jim gets to make fun of the Pirates about what I just said, I'm going to make fun of the Pirates, or ask you to make fun of the Pirates. Did anybody at the winter meetings make fun of the Pirates for celebrating their number one overall pick the way they did?
I didn't hear anyone make fun of the Pirates for celebrating their number one pick the way they did. Is that good
That
enough?
was spoken much like the way Ben Cherington would say something.
Yeah.
He was busy celebrating.
I'm trying to say something that won't get freaking tweeted by Rosati.
Get it, Jim. Get it.
Well, everything you say is on YouTube. So I'm just letting the people know what you're saying. That's all.
Oh, okay.
No, but that I found that hilarious. Like when the Pirates won the draft lottery, and then you see Ben Cherington like come from behind the curtain, and he's just like fist pumping. I lost it. I lost my mind. I just started laughing.
Look, there is a huge advantage for getting that number one pick over number 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, and that's not even so much being able to pick the first player as much as it is all the money that comes along with it. I mean, Anthony Salametto and Bubba Chandler are Pirates because the Pirates lost 2 or 3 extra games in 2020. So I do get it. If you're in the draft lottery, well, I guess we've got to pull for number one, but it's not a great look that's the big.
You look like dorks.
I would not have tweeted the video. Is going to be my
the video of Derek Shelton. Like, yes,
I think Shelton's fine with it. He's like, yeah, all right, and then he went back down. He just kind of.
But the
gave
whole
appropriate
room,
reaction of
yeah.
like, "Hey, we got the number 1 pick."
You're like, yeah.
I know how we got the number 1 pick. We're good. All right, we're moving. forward.
That's like, yeah, that's where I'm at. Like, it is a catch-22 because, like you're saying now, I mean, like, to be real and honest about it, you would want the number 1 pick if you're in that situation. Like, I'm not rooting for number 10. I'm not rooting for number 11 or whatever.
Yeah.
You want it, but right, it's the way they got excited about it because right, you're there. You had the best odds because you were the worst team, and that's how you got the number 1 pick. So it more like you're saying, the video is what kind of, because it's like, all right, you know what, we did it. Let's get to work now. Not celebrating like you won the World Series.
The team that should celebrate like that would be like the Twins, where they earnestly tried. Injuries happened, bad stuff happened, and then they went from like 13 to 5. They
Yeah.
should be hyped as hell. They are the
Mhm.
winners of this first, draft lottery because they're like, look, we went for it. No one's going to fault us for signing Carlos Correa and making a run in 22, and we're still rewarded with a high draft pick. That is the best case scenario that you can be in.
Not to mention,
yeah.
like the Pirates are getting a number 1 overall pick. They got it 2 years ago when there wasn't a transcendental talent. This year, there's not one.
It is way too soon to say if there is one or not.
There's no Bryce Harper. There's no Strasburg. There's
A year ago, everyone said Elijah Green was the,
yeah, but people were
transcendental, and he
stupid then. We're smart now.
Kumar Rocker.
Kumar
Yeah.
Rocker was going to be that guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Then we ended up with some bum from Louisville. Oh, I thought we were still talking about our podcast.
Yeah. But, again, the number 1 pick does mean a lot. Certainly is going to help this organization, you would hope and anticipate. But yeah, it was just the way it was celebrated was like, this is kind of cringe. This is the optics, right? We keep talking about like the PR, like not understanding, not getting it. And that kind of just added to it.
Yeah. I'm going to keep my mouth shut on that one.
But it's okay. They followed up with a hype video of Vince Velasquez. So.
I mean,
keeping my mouth
here's
shut
the
on that one.
positive. They have to spend more money. We
There
want
you
to spend
go.
more
They're
money
forced.
now.
They get to spend more money now. So, okay. So let's move on from the draft thing. One thing I did want to talk about, I just felt like this winter meeting was like outside. I guess if you're going to be in a draft lottery, winning the draft lottery is, the best thing that could happen. But like this winter meetings, I wasn't very happy with just the whole winter meetings as far as the Pirates were concerned. And then again, like, I'm not going to make a big deal out of this because, and I said it on Twitter, like not a big deal because these guys are just minor league depth people. But like, I don't know what this team was thinking kind of going into the minor league phase of the Rule 5 draft. Like I know like none of these people, like maybe there's one who it's like, why was this guy taken? But like everyone else, like you had the spots. So one, you got to either like fill the spots with picks, or two, fill the spots with the guys that are being taken. I don't know. I felt like it was just like were they not prepared for this?
I'm okay. What was the number? Was it 31 that they protected out of the 38? And where did that?
I believe that was right. Yeah.
Okay. I just saw that on Twitter. I was far too lazy. I could not pretend to care to go to someone in the Pirates organization and be like, hey, can you confirm you had 31 spots open? You had 7 spots open. So let's just operate on the assumption that they did have 7 spots open. Well, they had 2 guys on waivers, which were Yajure and Ali Sanchez. And Yajure was just outright at the AAA for the Giants. So like that's not unreasonable to think, okay, this guy could clear waivers. That's 2 spots that you have to keep potentially open for them. You have to keep a couple spots open for the players that you want to take on. You have to keep a couple spots open if you thought you were going to sign someone to a minor league contract during the winter meetings. It's not a big deal at the end of the day. It was.
And I prefaced this.
It's
What
not
like a huge
of those
deal,
11 guys, they may combine for 11 major league games.
Oh, like it's minor league depth is what it is. Yeah.
Trey Magoo is not going to make or break this rebuild.
Not according to Dan Szymborski. He was up there on a Zips leaderboard.
He was?
Yeah. He had over
I think
one
he
more.
had
He
Trey.
what?
Yeah, he had Trey as a 1 WAR player. Yeah,
No.
he did.
He
on
did.
Zips. He
He
did.
did.
Again, I love you. He's not a one-word player.
Well,
Zips.
unbeknownst
Zips
to us, Kevin Padlow is a 1.7 WAR player. So
That's true.
Correct.
Kevin Padlow was way up there.
Really?
Kevin Padlow was like the 4th best player on the team.
yeah, hitter wise.
Yeah.
Ben's on this. Ben's cooking, man.
I remember the Kevin Padlow era.
Yeah, there's 11 days.
In 10 nights.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, like I said, not a big deal.
Yeah.
It was just
It
I
is
don't
what it
know.
is.
Yeah.
The player taken that they couldn't take, I think, would be the more.
Well, I think like they picked a guy who they couldn't take,
So, Alex,
and then
were
they
you
just passed.
were you listening to it or?
Yeah, I was in the room whenever it was happening.
Okay, could you just like maybe I don't know if you can, but walk us through what happened a little bit there.
They announced that they took, I can't remember his name, and there was like a
Diaz or something.
long pause and like a couple huddles of like, can they do that? Are they allowed to do it? He's on the restricted list. Well, he's not on a AAA roster, but it's because he's on the restricted list. And it was like really 5 minutes before they go through, and they're like, okay, Pirates pass. Which I guess their list was, he was the last guy on their list. So I don't know. It was
Okay.
there were some sensible chuckles in the room whenever it all passed because none of us knew what was going on. They weren't able to announce to anyone what was going on. And it was afterwards, it's like, oh, the guy got popped, and we tweeted out like what actually happened. They just said no, they actually passed. They don't want him any after all. They saw his OPS and A-ball. They changed their mind.
That was his OPS while taking steroids too.
Imagine. Or maybe he saw his OPS and was like, I gotta change something. I could add 200 points this way.
Hey, on the bright side, it saved him from being a Pirate.
He instead will be on the restricted list at the start of the year and like 19th on the Rays shortstop.
There you go.
32 months. Thank you, Ethan.
Ethan's here to correct everyone.
He couldn't wait.
Yeah, I think the minor league portion of the Rule 5 draft is something a lot of people don't really understand. I mean, all those guys who were taken, I don't think anybody really knew who they were, other than like Jared Oliva, right?
Yeah. The stretch where there were 3 players of the 2020 team taken like a 4-pick stretch.
Yeah.
And like in that regards, when's the last time the Pirates have even had like a Rule 5 minor league pick that's done anything? Like I can't think.
Shea Spitzbarth reached the majors.
There you go.
But
He would have been one.
He pitched like 5 innings, so it's not
Right.
There
Like
was a
me,
dude that
you know,
we
knowing
lost.
on the Marlins stuff, like Justin Bauer was one. The first.
Well, there
baseman
was a
for the
guy.
Marlins, but-
There was a guy that the Pirates lost to the Marlins, I feel like 10 years ago, who went on to be like a semi-decent reliever.
No idea.
Mm-mm.
I'm going to have to go through Marlins 2017 baseball reference pages now.
Oh, I was gonna say, is this when you were writing?
I was gonna say that's
No.
not 10 years ago, Jim.
No, I mean, but he was on the Marlins for like a while. Like he was drafted maybe 10 years ago, but like he was
Yeah, 09.
was it no, who was it?
This is fascinating.
Keep going.
podcast.
Yeah,
Keep
we've
going.
lost everybody at this
Keep
point in
going.
time.
Keep going.
Not
I'm
Ethan.
looking
Ethan's
it
still
up.
here, bro.
Like it's
I'm
hard enough to listen
looking
about
it
the
up.
Pirates. Now we're talking about Rule 5 minor league draft picks. The Marlins take.
Well, now I'm looking at the
Recap what
2017
happened.
Marlins. Now I'm looking at the 2017 Marlins, and I'm seeing Jeff Locke, Vance Worley, and Edinson Volquez.
Don't you know the Marlins hired who was
Jeff
the guru?
Bannister.
Who was the guru?
Jeff Bannister.
Not
Or no,
Bannister,
Jeff,
the other dude.
the other guy. God, good Lord. Why did I say
Oh my
Bannister?
God.
Why am I drawing a blank?
So we got Trevor Williams.
It starts with a B.
Holy hell.
Why are we all drawing a blank?
Someone in the media said that was the biggest part of that trade at one point. I remember
too.
Good Lord, why did I say Bannister? That's going to drive me crazy.
Holy hell.
All right. Jim Benedict.
Jim Benedict. Good
There
Lord.
it is.
It was a JB.
All right, Jeff Bannister wasn't a bad guess, but yeah, all Jim Benedict did, his pitching guru was like, yeah, these guys were good in 14 and 15. Let's get them on the Marlins.
So to take it back to you talking about Altoona being the next step, it really, unfortunately, reminds me of that Altoona team from back then with Jeff Locke, Justin Wilson. All those guys ended up being scrubs. That whoever
Jeff Locke was an all-star.
he was a scrub.
Justin Wilson's still pitching a decade later.
Yeah, he got Cervelli. Good for him. He sucked. He didn't really suck, but he was fine. That's
Jeff
really-
Wilson was fine. Was
that his name, Jeff Wilson?
Justin Wilson.
Justin.
Yes.
Yeah, he was fine.
Jeff Wilson's a running back. This is a great podcast.
I'm just going through old Marlins rosters at this point.
You got stuck in Miami. I think
This
Jeff,
is literally became the hodgepodge of nothingness right now.
I think Jeff
Yes,
Wilson's a running
it
back
really
for the
is.
Dolphins.
I'm gonna need me talking about the Pirates rotation in 2023 until I go like I'm gonna throw up. I'm gonna need that as a clip.
In my defense, you said Johan Oviedo and Vince Velasquez as a fine rotation.
I didn't say fine. I said that's what they're gonna do.
No, I'm gonna need us to run it back. I'm pretty sure said he said
we'll see whenever the clip drops.
Don't worry. I'll splice things so that way it does say
Yeah.
it if we need it.
You're gonna
And if-
you're gonna splice
I mean-
it so it's like 100%, 30% chance
yeah.
it works every time.
And if not, I'm
Yep.
just gonna have Jim tweet it.
I'll just tweet it, yeah. And I'll just make up what it says.
Just put the dots before it and then put Johan Oviedo, Vince Velasquez is fine. They don't need to add anything more.
Unless they want to.
Unless they here we go.
And then it's gonna be and he's a dude.
He's
Vince Velasquez is a dude.
our dude, Vinny.
Our guy, Vinny.
Speaking of bad PR moves, what did you make of the hype video?
For Velasquez?
Yeah,
No comment.
cool.
Works.
I mean, they showed him striking out Ohtani. And I think Trout was in the video too. So they picked like
That
the
was a
best
good
of the
hype.
best
It was a good
highlights,
hype
yeah.
video
Yeah.
for a bad player.
Oh yeah, like for a really bad pitcher, there was a really good hype video. Yeah.
Pirates do have some good content creators.
We need
Alex
to stop
is never
being
coming
so
on
mean.
here again.
we need to stop being so mean to the Pirates, or Alex is going to lose his press pass.
I'm going to second with the Pirates have some good content creators.
It's gonna be that Jets meme, right? Alex walks into PNC Park and can't get in the doors.
Courtesy of North Shore 9.
They took me off the beat forcibly.
Wait, did we do it? Did we get Alex off the beat?
Team's finally good.
And evicted for good measure.
All right, so I've gone through the Marlins 2009. 2009 through 2022. I think I just made that up. I must have just made it up.
Well,
2008.
we can now end the show.
Dude, you went through half of the franchise's history. Finish the job.
Yeah, I don't think it's there. I don't think there's anything there.
Sweet. Well, that might be the end of the show.
How are we going
Well,
to top that?
It might be because Alex is like a Steelers writer now. I see his work on the Steelers these days.
Yeah. You got to have one on Friday too.
Oh boy.
Really, the Steelers kind of turned a corner once Alex started doing some Steelers games.
Did they?
I don't know.
Before and after.
I don't know.
This ain't the year.
Jim doesn't know. He's a Lamar Jackson fan.
Yeah.
So are they going to win games this year, Alex? Let's maybe end on that. We've heard how they're going to look and focus on the major league product, and it was looking kind of hopeful, right? Troy, Carlos Santana. Maybe there's more than just words being spoken. Winter meeting's gone past. We already talked about the moves, so I don't know. I guess what's your feeling? What's the vibe? Like, is there any more that's going to really be added to this team other than like another Velasquez type of pitcher?
And
Roberto
some catcher at some
Perez.
point,
Like,
yeah.
is there going to be any actual movement?
I think every move that they've made this year has made the major league product better. And
I won't disagree, but the
The
bar
Kevin Newman trade didn't. The
is
Kevin Newman
quite
trade didn't.
low. Mm,
Newman needed to be traded to clear spots for Castro. and Cruz.
You could throw a dart, Alex, and pick a guy to clear. There's
I guess,
a lot
like,
of,
I guess my question: have you heard anything about, like, are they looking to add an outfielder?
I mean, they're open to middle infield. They're open outfielder. I don't know if there's really anything on the docket, major league, contract wise, outside of maybe a little more pitching and the catcher at some point, though. And if the right opportunity comes up for a backup middle infielder, but I think a lot's going to be. I think the big splurges have been done, if we want to refer to them as that. Like, it's
understood.
is what it is. But I will say that I think this major league roster is better now than it was at the end of last year. And I think this wave of prospects coming up, there are some legitimate dudes in that mix. So I think this team can take a step forward in 2023. Maybe not to where you would want it to be still, 4 years in. But if the win total doesn't start with a 7, it has to, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think
right. He says
I
with
think-
a little more
Yeah, I mean, I think
concern in his voice.
I think a few of the younger guys like take some steps forward. I think you could even count on maybe a little bit more out of Reynolds than what you saw last year too.
If he is a Pirate, yeah.
I think probably the biggest piece is
tweet it.
hopefully we're done with the days of how many starts were given to pitchers last year who were just awful, like really
Tyler
bad.
Beatty starter experiment.
Yeah, so
That's not happening this year.
yeah, so I think we're
There's
past
Luis
those
Ortiz,
days.
There's Priester, there's Mike
Yeah.
Burrows. There's just guys that they could go through, and the growing pains to get to this point were rough, but here they are. They're close to. Andy Dufresne sees the light at the end of the sewer almost. Whenever it comes to stuff like that, it's
Yeah.
I would feel a lot better if just watching this organization of someone gets hurt. That means Mike Burrows is coming up, rather than this guy is hurt. I guess Tyler Beatty and bullpen starts once every 5 days.
Yep. And I think that's
Even
why,
a
like,
Zach
I was
Thompson.
so. Go ahead.
even like a Zach Thompson and Bryce Wilson, like hopefully we don't have to deal with that as much as we did.
Yeah, and I think that's why I was like such in favor of like a Kyle Gibson type signing. Like there's a lot of value in just
Stability.
having a major league starting pitcher who will go out there every 5 days, and you don't have to see Tyler Beatty start games. You don't have to see Dwayne Underwood Jr. go out there and start games like as an opener, right? And just have bullpen days once or twice a week. Like there's a lot of value in having a pitcher like that, and I think that's why I was really more on board with. I was more on board with it.
Oh, miss you, Mike.
Yeah, no more Jared Eichhoffs.
Yeah, and I guess like the reason I asked that too is I think a good way of comparing it is it's like the Pirates come out and saying like, well, this is going to be better than the Brian Hayes contract. When the bar is so low, like they just naturally have to be better. Like you're saying, like they have to be better this year than next year, or last year, because they were just so awful last year. And the players they played, I mean, the Van Meters, the Yoshis, right? Like the players they played were just so awful that you have to, if they're not better this year, that speaks volumes on this rebuild. Yeah. So like, yes, they naturally have to be better just because of what's the product that's there, but
they have to be better.
I just wish they would push it a little more, especially with the words that were being spoken, this heading into this offseason, that it's time to focus, it's time to get better. And they really didn't. They're just more or less like letting the attrition happen.
I mean, that's fair too. I mean,
going out there and maybe making some moves.
I mean, like I said, I think every move they have made has improved the major league roster. I don't think every move has been like this big needle shift, though. Like maybe you're really high on either Troy or Santana, and that like actually does move the needle, a couple of wins. But for the most part, it's like, okay, we're going to be going from Manny Banuelos to Harleen Garcia. That's probably better. It's not 3 WAR better or whatever. Like first base, I think is the one position where we will see like in catcher, depending on when Davis and Rodriguez get called up, and if Roberto Perez comes back, it is if he's healthy. There's just like a lot of factors there. And the rotation, like there are areas where it's like this part of the team will get better, but the overall product, it's like, well, a lot of this has to be internal improvement, and that can be baby steps right there. And even Charrington talking in the winter meetings, it's like we can take a step forward, but we also know there's a lot of ground that we have to make up from where we were. These improvements don't come always in one winter, and I don't think it is going to come in one winter.
Shoot me.
We're going to make a greatest hits of me going on a soliloquy, and then
no, I mean, I think like I'm not expecting the Pirates, like I'm not expecting anything like the 2022 Orioles, even, where they kind of, things just kind of came together for them last year. I think if that were to happen for the Pirates next year, you're looking at like an absolute best case scenario. They're probably at best a year behind that. 2024 looking like the year where things, start coming together. I do think the team won't be like I said, we already talked about it. Like, I don't think it'll be completely unwatchable, terrible this year. Like if I had to put a win total together, just top of my head, like I think they're a 70-win team, which is a step forward. Like if we're talking about if that's a step forward, it is. Is it where we want to be necessarily? Where we were hoping we would be in 2023? Back in 2020 when all this started, probably not. But I think that's kind of just where we're at right now.
Shoot me.
I agree.
All right. Here's my question for Alex. At what month do we have to jump on one of our post-game shows and think, good Lord, I don't want to do this anymore? Are we going to survive through July?
I mean, June should be a fun month. Because,
we said that last year.
Yeah. Well, June also had the call-up of O'Neal Cruz, and
it got less fun.
Majors.
I was going to say,
because we got more Josh Van Meter.
Contreras got his way down shortly after.
No, that was in July.
Yeah, but we got more Josh Van Meter.
He was just busy tipping his pitches in June. That was a thing that happened. Yeah, I mean, I'll say May. I think you guys get your second win in June. You guys get a second win in June, whatever. It's like,
I like that answer. No, I like that.
Let's go. We're cooking.
I like that. I like that. And
I'll
then
take
we're done again in August.
Yeah, maybe. Probably. Whenever Vince Velasquez in his 3.75 ERA gets traded for picks.
For a 28-year-old rookie reliever.
Oh, Jim tweeted. He just said that Vince Velasquez is going to have a 3.75 ERA and he's going to get traded.
No, I'm not tweeting that out. It's not very newsworthy.
You're not a great.
Me predicting a good Vince Velasquez cooking and getting traded is not newsworthy.
No.
But me pulling a number out of my ass if I be put on the spot is.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Fine, well, Persac come back.
I didn't see this comment. Reynolds finally not pregnant, so I'll get season. Oh, Bucko Mike.
What if Reynolds announces that they're pregnant again, like in March?
Oh my god.
Bucko Mike's gonna lose it.
So we got anything else for Alex?
No, I did go all the way back to the 2002 Marlins, though. Still couldn't find it. I'm done though after that.
All right. I appreciate it.
Nice.
So yeah, I clearly just made that up.
Shocker.
You sound like another Pirates account. Just making things up.
Oh, good lord.
Say whatever you want. Put in existence. But anyways, so let's get out of here then. It's been an hour and a half of stupidity and nonsense, but welcome to North Shore Eye. No, Alex, once again, thanks for coming on. Maybe we'll have you come on again since we were able to make it through a full show and you didn't have to go leave us.
I'm 2 for 3 now. That's pretty good.
You are. It's a really solid batting average.
I'm
2
really
for 2
excited.
when I'm on it.
True. I'm really excited for
I
you to
can't
come in
big
third
time
this
get
year in the Fanboys.
If I three-peat, I think that says more about you guys than Twitter than it does me.
It's fair.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Well, Alex, we'll see you again. Good luck on the beat this year. Hopefully you stay on, I guess. For your sake.
Thank you. I do
All
like
right.
eating.
Let's go. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Peace out, Girl Scouts.
See you guys.